Welcome back everyone to another Psych Reacts video. Today we are looking at Diane Downs, who shot her 3 children because her boyfriend didn't want kids. If you do not know, Elizabeth Diane Downs is an American criminal who murdered her daughter and attempted to murder her other 2 children. Following the crime, she told the police that a man had attempted to carjack her and had shot the children. However, after further investigation, the police were able to determine that Diane was the culprit. Now, today we are looking at her interview, so let's go ahead and jump right into this.
My whole life, even as a child, all I really thought about, I used to carry dolls around on a pillow, and I wanted to be a mom.
What Diane Downs wanted more than anything else was to have children. She got her wish, but her dream turned into a twisted tragedy when she was sentenced to life for shooting her children because her boyfriend didn't like kids. Even today, 5 years later, her former husband would like to see her pay the ultimate price.
Executed. That's what I was hoping for. That's what I still feel that they should have done that, you know. We'd all be better off.
But it was the children who would pay for what Diane wanted.
Diane's the type of woman who I think could cut your throat and then sit down and have lunch next to your body.
So from the very beginning, she mentioned that she wanted to be a mother. She said she would carry dolls around, and ever since she was a child, that's what she wanted. However, I don't think she understood what it meant to be a mother. I think she wanted what a mother has, is that strong love for their children, but she couldn't feel that, so she didn't quite understand the whole extent of being a mother. So I think she longed for that feeling because deep down she knew she didn't have that, which is also empathy. So I think that's why she wanted to be a mother, was so she could feel what was missing.
I wouldn't walk in there and say, this weird person came up out of nowhere and shot us for no reason and just left. I mean, that's not a believable story. I could have, if I had done this, I could have come up with a believable story. It really happened.
It was back in May of 1983, next to this creek, alongside this isolated country road outside of Springfield, Oregon, that this bizarre and tragic crime was committed. It was around 9:45 in the evening when Diane Downs said a man flagged down her car and demanded her keys. When she refused, he pulled out a pistol and shot her and her 3 small children.
I could smell the blood, I could smell the gunpowder, it was just a really, really horrible feeling.
But Diane says she somehow managed to escape and rushed to a nearby hospital. 7-year-old Cheryl was dead on arrival. 8-year-old Christy was shot twice in the chest. 3-year-old Danny was shot in the back and lay paralyzed. Diane, however, received only wounds to her forearm.
So let's tag along on the idea of a man came, demanded for the keys, she refused, and then shot her children, okay? Let's pretend that actually happened. If that actually happened, do you think a grown man would need to critically harm 3 kids? One being 8 years old, one being 7 years old, and one being, I think, 3 or 4. The oldest ones are the girls. So instantly, this man is stronger than everyone in the car. Okay, so even Diane, a man more than likely can overpower a woman. They're just physically stronger. So if he wanted to take Diane's car, like she's saying, and she refused, do you think he would have critically injured the children and only shoot her in the arm? She would be his main threat. So if a man did try to take her car, wouldn't he do more to her than the children? So the kids were shot in locations that would critically harm and subdue a person. The chest, the back. But for Diane, a grown adult, she was only shot in the arm. So if she is a caring mother, more than likely this bullet in her arm would not affect her to as much of a degree as the children were, because her adrenaline's pumping, she wants to save her kids. So realistically, if there was a man trying to take her car, why would he shoot the kids for mass injury and only slightly injure the mother? Because the mother is the main threat. So that's why the police were not buying her story. A man could easily overpower 3 children and a mother. The most he would have to do to the mother would be like shoot her in the shoulder or even like the leg to disable her. But the arm is such a random location, and I feel like if he could have gotten clean shots off on the kids, how come he didn't get a clean shot off on the mother? To me, it seems like she shot all of her kids and then shot her arm because it would be the least painful, but she could also play off the idea that someone tried to take her car because she too got injured. Because it would be really weird if she didn't get touched at all, right? So she knew that going into this, which is why she injured her arm.
It was all wrong. From the beginning, it was wrong.
Detective Doug Welch was one of the first officers at the hospital that night, and although he didn't realize it at the time, this case would consume his life for many months to come.
Here was a woman who was completely apathetic about the welfare of her kids. She was just emotionally flat and preoccupied with something else.
That evening and the next day, police were out in full force, looking for any clues that would lead them to the man that Diane claimed did the shooting, later to be known as the bushy-haired stranger.
I'm throwing the keys, okay? I'm throwing the keys.
4 days later, as one child was being buried, the other two still in intensive care, Diane reenacted for police what happened that night. Besides wondering why a woman with children would stop her car and get out for a strange man, detectives couldn't help but notice Diane's seemingly carefree attitude.
I just hit my cast. Started the car and left. The car door shut itself. God dang.
Alright, so watching this, you might notice that her behavior is odd, considering one child was being buried and the other two were still in intensive care. Look how floaty, free, happy, giddy she is while reenacting this scenario. She talks about
Known as the bushy-haired
keys.
stranger.
We're gonna mute this. So look at that. She's smiling and laughing. Meanwhile, she has one kid being buried and two in intensive care. She's interacting with him facing towards the camera. So she's like playing a show almost. And listen to her when she hits her cast.
Her car and get out for a strange man. Detectives couldn't help but notice Diane's seemingly carefree attitude.
I just hit my cast. Started the car and left. The car door shut itself. God dang.
So see how her whole posture, her whole character, it's too happy for having 3 kids, 1 murdered and 2 seriously hurt. She's way too happy for this situation, right? She's like, oh, I hit my cast. But meanwhile, 2 of her kids are severely injured and 1 is dead. So she's trying to play a victim here, but she's not doing it too well because of how happy she's acting. So also, the narrator makes a good point. Why would a mother with 3 children stop the car for a strange man, right? So if a man is like flagging down your car or whatever, and you have 3 kids and you're a mother that actually has feelings, you're not gonna stop the car. I can almost guarantee you that. And if you do, you're either very trusting or you're stupid. I mean, you never want to stop the car for a stranger, let it be a man or a woman, because who knows who that person is, right? I feel like it's more serious now than like 1989 or whatever, but still, a mother should have those instincts to not stop her car when she has children in the back seat, right?
Sure, I could sit here and cry and be all upset. And what's it going to prove? It proves nothing. I am who I am, and I can't prove that I'm anybody other than what I am.
It proves that you have feelings. It proves that you care for your children. It proves that you didn't do this because of your boyfriend, right? She also says, I am what I am. So to me, that seems like she knows there's something wrong with her. She knows that she should be crying and she should be upset, but she's not. And I think that's why she wanted to be a mother so bad, is because she wanted to feel that, but literally could not.
Diane was brought up in a strict religious family in Phoenix. She graduated from high school with straight A's. She married Steve Downs at 17, and almost immediately they had children.
I got pregnant when I wasn't allowed to, and I'm not saying he forbade me to get pregnant, but I didn't consult him. I wanted to have children, and so I got pregnant without asking permission.
Well, once she had the kids, you know, it was another story, you know. Well, she treated them like crap. You know, she really didn't treat them very good.
Christy and Cheryl came early in the marriage. Little Danny came later, the result of an affair. Diane then became a surrogate mother, bearing a child for another woman. After 8 years, the marriage ended in divorce.
This was a woman that really got around, you know. Of course, I really didn't know that. Hey, you know, you're not supposed to, you're the husband. You're supposed to be the last to know.
In 2 years' time, I had 10 separate lovers. 2 years. That's not very many, and less than half of them were married.
Okay, so the last child, the boy, was from another man because she was having affairs. She says she only had 10 affairs in 2 years, and only less than half were married. But can we really trust what she's telling us? The father also kind of tries to play it off like she's the biggest slut in town, and he tries to play a victim here, but he knew that she was not a good mother to the kids. He says that she didn't really treat them that well, but yet he let her have them. Now, it could be because of the courts, right? The courts usually give the kids to the mother, but usually the father has some sorts of seeing rights unless there's something wrong, like unless the situation is he's into drugs or it's not safe for the kids to go with the dad. But usually the kids will go to the mom, with the dad getting like weekends or something. He could have fought more for having the custody of his own children by trying to plead the case that she was not a good mother to them, and he could have taken custody for them, and who knows, maybe he could have saved the oldest daughter's life and also the other 2 children because they were severely injured. Let's just continue watching because there's something else about him that I want to point out.
This is where she would meet a fellow employee, a married man who she would have an intimate relationship with. According to Oregon police, that man would be the reason why she would later try to kill her children. Robert Knickerbocker told Diane he would divorce his wife of 10 years and marry her, but there was one problem. You see, he didn't have kids, and he didn't want kids.
Well, hey, I don't have a problem with you having a relationship with anybody, you know, especially if it's going to work into something serious. And how does he feel about the kids? Oh, well, he doesn't want anything to do with the kids. He hates kids, he can't have kids, and he had a vasectomy so that he can't have kids, on and on and on.
Diane and the children moved to Springfield, Oregon. She set up a new life in this apartment house and waited for her boyfriend to get a divorce and join her, but he never showed up. According to police, she became obsessed with trying to get him, writing him letters every day, but they would come back unopened.
He would change his mind on a daily basis. I'm coming, I'm going, I'm coming, I'm going. I want a divorce, I've changed my mind, I don't want a divorce. A week and a half later, he changes his mind, he doesn't want a divorce, okay?
This was a real obstacle as far as Diane was concerned. Those kids were a burden, and there was no way that she could see that she was going to get this guy up to Oregon as long as she had the kids.
I completely agree with that as well. To her, the kids were just standing in her way. She probably believed that the boyfriend wasn't leaving his wife because she had children, and maybe he wasn't. But for normal people, they find a new boyfriend who accepts the children, right? Because you love and you care for your children, and they come first. But for her, she saw it as a burden. She saw it as an obstacle. And they were standing in her way of getting her new lover. And that's where the lack of empathy comes into play. Because normal people would replace the boyfriend, not the kids.
Along with the letters, this statuette was found in Diane's apartment. Inscribed at the base, to Christy, Cheryl, and Daniel, "I love you, Mom." Dated just 6 days before the shooting. Police believe this was not a gift, but a memorial, because soon Diane would be without her children. The town of Springfield was shocked by the crime. Diane proclaimed herself the victim of an unknown madman. But as police investigated, they found no evidence to support her story about a bushy-haired stranger. Instead, everything pointed to Diane. Most damaging were the slugs found at the scene. Police say they were fired from a .22 Ruger pistol. Although the weapon was never found, Diane was known to have a similar gun.
We were able to learn that she did have a Ruger.
She had that gun, and she pulled that gun out and shot those kids with it.
That was the other thing that I wanted to mention about the husband. Let me go ahead and replay that real quick.
She had that gun, and and she pulled that gun out and shot those kids with it.
He refers to his children as those kids. So even he doesn't acquit himself with the children. It's disconnected, it's distant. So I don't know if he was involved in any way, shape, or form after the divorce. Granted, the one boy was not his, but the two daughters were, and the one daughter died, and the other one was severely injured. So to me, it doesn't sit right with him, because why would he refer to his kids as those kids? It's kind of what Chris Watts did, right? He said, I would never harm those kids. He didn't say I would never harm my kids. This is Chris Watts. So it's kind of the same thing here, where the father is not taking any responsibility for his children. I mean, maybe he doesn't think that any of them are his because she did sleep around, but I feel like at least one of them had to be his, right? So I don't know why he would use that phrasing unless he is just as disconnected and disjointed as she is.
Police were unable to crack Diane's story about a crazed killer who only demanded her car keys and said nothing more before shooting her children. But during a tape-recorded police interrogation, she slipped, changed the story, and said that the man had called her by name and threatened to kill her if she talked.
This individual talked to you, referred to you by name, and also referred to your tattoo.
Right.
As close as you can remember, what did he tell you?
If you say anything about what happened here, that they'd come back and kill me.
It wasn't an intentional lie, though. I didn't sit
But you
just
changed
sit
your
there.
story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, you know, you've heard it. It's obvious.
Doesn't that make it seem kind of tough to believe what you're saying? If you change your story 2 months after the shooting?
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to believe me. I'm not saying that anybody has to believe me. But I know within myself, I can sit here with a clear conscience and know that I did not shoot my kids.
Her whole facial expressions during that little segment of the interview doesn't match her words.
Clear conscience and know that I did not shoot my kids.
When she says, I'm sorry, it's so flat.
I'm sorry.
That's not someone who's sorry, you know? So I find that very interesting.
I mean, I'm not saying that you have to believe me. I'm not saying
She almost looks like she was on the verge of smiling, too.
that anybody has to believe me. But I know within myself, I can sit here with a clear conscience and know that I did not shoot my kids.
There was only circumstantial evidence to go on. Police felt they needed more. They had to talk to the two surviving children. Danny was too young, and Christy had suffered a stroke as a result of her gunshot wounds and had difficulty speaking.
Why wouldn't they arrest me if I did it? If they really had this evidence, I say they didn't have the evidence.
Finally, police arrested Diane, and incredibly, she was pregnant once again. Throughout the trial, the public would see Diane being led to the courthouse in a maternity gown and handcuffs.
Okay, so she had 3 children, right? And then she was a surrogate for another woman, meaning she had a child for a woman that maybe couldn't. And then she was once again pregnant during the trial. So I think she was fairly obsessed with being pregnant and wanting to be a mother. I just don't think she understood what it was. Like I said before, I think it's the whole wanting to feel that intense love for somebody, and she thought maybe being pregnant would do it. But it seems time after time again, it fails her, and she still can't form that connection.
The Lane County Courthouse in Eugene. And although the prosecution felt they had a strong case, they were still concerned about their only eyewitness. Would little Christy Downs, now 9 years old, be able to take the stand and testify against her mother? In an emotional and oftentimes tense account, Christy Downs told the jury what happened that night. When asked, "Who shot you?" she replied, "Mom did."
Her daughter Christy testified that Mom stopped the car, got out, and then walked to the trunk where she obtained something. We feel it was a murder weapon, and then walked back where she reached inside and shot the kids. After that, we think that Diane then shot herself.
A jury found Diane Downs guilty of murder and attempted murder and sentenced her to life in prison, where she would later have her baby and give it up for adoption.
See her whole body language there? She's like, oh well, I got caught, you know? That was kind of what that shrug was.
Prison, where she would later have her baby and give it up for...
No, she was just like all flat, and then she saw the cameras, and then she goes, oh well, you know? So I don't think there was a man ever that tried to take her keys and shot her children. I think she pulled over and shot her children. There's no other evidence to suggest that somebody else was there, and the bullet wounds were not right, if that makes sense. Like I said, if someone were to try and steal her car, why would they only shoot the kids severely and not the mother? So wrapping up, I do believe that Diane Downs did shoot her own children, and she was just playing a game. Maybe she wanted to play victim, but she most likely did it for the boyfriend. She chose the infatuation with the boyfriend instead of her own flesh and blood. So that has been the interview to Diane Downs, the woman who shot her own children. If you did watch and enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like down below. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I do read them all. I like to see what you guys have to say, any other insights you have to include, and all of that. Also, make sure if you haven't already to hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you know when I upload a brand new video. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace!